So good day everyone, I am Jenelyn Banquil, a third-year student at Mindanao State University Boog Campus with the degree of BSA Agronomy. So this day I'm going to discuss in chapter 7, which is human flourishing. So when we talk about human flourishing, it is defined as an effort to achieve self-actualization and fulfillment within the context of a larger community of individuals. And also human flourishing, it is very important. It's just because human flourishing, it promotes the growth, development, and holistic well-being of individuals and population. And also human flourishing, it serves as a moral basis for what is meant to be a human. And also in human flourishing, we as an individual, we have the right to pursue our own such effort. So next is the chapter outline. So there are three chapter outlines. So first is human being, second is understanding human flourishing, and the last one is science and technology and human flourishing. So next is the learning outcomes. So at the end of this chapter, the student should be able to understand the concept of human being, analyze human flourishing in relation to the progress of science and technology, and the last one is conceptualize on views in human flourishing. So next is the human being. So when we talk about human being, some says that human being are related to the great apes, and that human being is a member na siya of Homo sapiens species and distinguished by a more highly developed brain and the resultant capacity for articulate speech and abstract reasoning. So there are many ways of describing a human being, but most of it do not precisely define or describe a human or what does it mean to be a human. So kani nga question nga, what does it mean to be a human? Ang answer to this question may have its scientific basis or philosophical context. So next is biologists describe human as having the attributes of living organisms including plants and animals. This designates that human being is a complex matter capable of performing life-sustaining processes. So according to biologists, they describe human having the attribute of all living organism and capable of performing life-sustaining processes. So this is how biologists describe human. So next is Smith. In fact, when we talk about human, we as a human being, we are the highest form nga gibuhat sa Ginoo. Kita ang pinakataas nga gibuhat sa Ginoo. Kita ang pinaka-special. It's just because we have the capacity to articulate speech and abstract reasoning. So next is as May 2012 shared that we can turn to science for an answer because in the first place science identified human varied opinion and limited evidence. So according to Smith 2012 shared that we as a human being can turn to science for an answer. It's just because according to him science varied with opinion and limited evidence. So that's why si Smith hindi siya kumbensyado about tao is to turn to science for an answer. And also si Smith, he further stressed that biologists aren't equipped to tell us whether an organism is a human organism because for him ang human is a folk category rather than a scientific one. So that's how Smith shared about human being. So next is Blakemore and Greenfield 1987 as cited in Bernaldez 2021. recognize that the position of intellect distinguishes human being from another creature. So this intellect uh, supports self-consciousness and awareness sufficient for the achievements of human's function, discovery of truth, and development of humankind. So, and also it may sound universally acceptable, but to Heidegger, the question "what is human being?" it's just the tip of the original, more valid question: what is the meaning of being? He thought that such move was to divert the inquirer from the object of inquiry. So, according to Heidegger, it it was originally the fundamental question of philosophy, which was pursued by the ancient Greek philosopher, but later on, yung question nga what is human being, uh, but later on neglected if not forgotten in Western philosophy. Then Heidegger is wala siya na convinced with the reason used to justify such neglect, the self-evidence, universality, and indefinability of the concept of being. Then furthermore, say Heidegger, he argued that asking for the meaning of the term being doesn't suggest the inquiry has no idea about it, because in the first place, ang meaning of being is associated with the concept of existence, which meant that the inquirer already has the idea on the term. However, vague or incomplete, the inquirer obviously refers to a man as being. So according to Heidegger, ang inquire nag-refers na siya to man as a being nga nag-focuses to the what of human existence. This somehow justifies human beings' adaptability to environmental changes and ability to manipulate environment in the interest of survival. Then conversely, si Heidegger nag-use siya og term dasein, which literally means being there, focuses on the modes of existence. And the whole of dasein, the mode of existence, is fundamentally established by two things, and this is the dasein exists in the world, and ikaduha is dasein has a self that is defined and it exists in the world. Hence kaning two things of the modes of existence mo-support na siya sa human beings' capacity to decide on what is good or bad for them. Then next is the understanding human flourishing. So understanding human flourishing, it has been discussed that human being is endowed with innate abilities and characteristics that let him sustain his functions and to survive in the given environment. In the very center of being is an unexplainable thirst which long for happiness, serenity, and fulfillment. The unquenching thirst towards indefinite bounds of life can only be sufficed once fulfilled. So through having a true understanding of the condition that enables human flourishing will promote safety and security people's lives. Then it would be beneficial if different views will be taken into account to understand it well. The following are the selected philosophers' point of view. So first philosopher's point of view is on Aristotle's viewpoint. So Aristotle's teaching suggests that each man's life has purpose and that the function of one's life is to attain that purpose. So according to Aristotle, teaching suggests that each of man's life is not just a purpose and that the function of one life is to attain that purpose. For Aristotle, happiness or earthly is the highest desire and ambition of all living things. So to achieve it, so one must cultivate the highest virtues within oneself. Then Aristotle believed that human beings have a natural desire and capacity to know and understand the truth, to pursue moral excellence, and to instantiate their ideals in the world through action. And also Aristotle furthermore, Aristotle's actions are geared toward one's proper and desired and flourishing happiness or edu, eudaimonia. So, what is eudaimonia? So, at etymologically speaking, eudaimonia is consists of Greek words which means good, and daemon, which means spirits, and is literally defined it as the state of being of having good indwelling spirit, a good genius. Then eudaimonia, it also known as eudaimonism, is a Greek word. Ang Greek word sa eudaimonia is eudaimonism, nga nag-refers to a state of having a good indwelling spirit or being in a contented state of being healthy, happy, and prosperous. Then in moral philosophy, eudaimonia is used to refer the right action. So kaning in moral philosophy, ang eudaimonia is gigamit ni to refer to the right action as those that result in the well-being of an individual. So in this case, ang well-being becomes an essential value, and also in general sense, ang eudaimonia can be perceived as any theory that takes place the personal happiness of an individual and his or her complete life at the core of ethical concern. So next is the on Epicurus viewpoint. So Epicurus was born on 341 BC. Si Epicurus was a Greek philosopher who contradicted the metaphysical philosophers, and also si Epicurus believed that balance and temperance were created space for happiness, and also he views is not more of how happiness can be defined but more on theory about the real source to experience it. And furthermore, it is agrees with the ethical doctrine which claim pleasures is the norm of morality Hinduism, but reiterates the intelligent choice and practical wisdom to measure pleasure against pain to attain well-being. Then this is how on Epicurus viewpoint. The next on Nietzsche's viewpoint. So Friedrich Nietzsche's 1844 to 1900. Si Friedrich is he was a German philosopher and cultural critic nga nag-publish intensively in the 1870s and 1980s. And si Nietzsche's he is known for his criticism on psychological analysis that resulted to opposing ideas on the people receive ideas. So as expected, si Nietzsche viewed happiness in a different way. Then for many philosophers, ang happiness could be a constant of well-being, but for Nietzsche, happiness is an ideal state of laziness. Consequently, laziness for him described as to not have any worries or distress in life. So next, mao to siya din. Philosopher views the evidence of objective sense of how it means to flourish, and it accepts that man's ultimate desires of living is to flourish and to experience a life of well-being, life that goes well for him. Then flourishing can either be based on the state of mind or a kind of value. One's mental habit and value towards life may deny access to experience fulfillment of life. On the other hand, it may lead to understanding one's functions through self-actualization. So next is the science and technology, and human flourishing. In fact, we as a human being will live in the world where science and technology is muna siya ang forefront of ever-changing society. In fact, through science and technology, our life become much better. Then, yung mga trabaho nato is kano kanang dali ra mahuman. Then, advances and continuous technological growth are the result of intensified application of scientific knowledge to deliver progress in the society. In fact, the rise of information technologies has made global communication possible. In fact, through science and technology, siya ang forefront of ever-changing society. Then, economic growth and global standing were achieved through innovation. Economic growth and global standing were achieved through innovation, and this and more completes the story of changes, innovation, and progress, which imparts the ethical and moral preference to human lives. And indeed, ang progress is inevitable so as the desire of human to flourish. As scientific and technological development is increasingly placed significantly to human lives, eudaimonistic orientation of happiness or end. So, that's the end of my presentation, and thank you and God bless.